started after originally years ago after Sukkot. That's when we started. Okay, we are on Nun Vav Amud Aleph. We are now on 54A,
No,
54A3.
56.
Sorry, you're right, 56. Very good. Thank you, Ralph. 56A3. So we're just concluding. The Mishnah stated, morning, Adam. So we're concluding this long sugya that we had, which we discussed about the different groups of Kohanim that were in the Beit HaMikdash. And we said that the Kohanim that worked on the regular Shabbat every week, like we said, it was broken up 24 groups. So now let's say it's the holiday of Sukkot. This Shabbat is the holiday of Sukkot. And now let's say now Shabbat is the Shabbat during Sukkot. So we said that any offerings that were brought in honor of the holiday of Sukkot belong to all the 24 groups, but anything that was brought not connected with the holiday belongs to that week, the Kohanim that were on duty, whose week the Sukkot holiday fell out during their week. In the rotation, they will bring the regular offerings that are brought, the daily offerings, and anything that has nothing to do with the holiday per se, they would bring and they would have the rights to that. So the
Shabbat, the incoming and the outgoing.
And the Shabbat, we said that around after the Musaf, that's how many learn. After the Musaf would be the switch of the guard, and the new group would come in. So the new group would be bringing anything from the Mincha and on, if they would be involved in that, and that would be the changing of the guard. So now the Mishnah stated back on Nun Hey Amud Beis, on the bed, it said that the Mishmash Zmana Kvua, the group that was its weekly time, its set time in the rotation, they would bring the Tamidim, they would bring any daily offering that was brought in the Beit HaMikdash, because that has nothing to do with the holiday. It's a regular day offering. And that's, by the way, that's what our Shachrit and our Mincha corresponds to the carbon that was made in the Beit HaMikdash, the daily morning offering, daily afternoon offering. So Makiv Tamidim, and also the Darim and the Davot. If anybody made a pledge, a vow to bring a certain offering, and they decided to bring it during the holiday times, so that belonged to the group of Kohanim that were on duty that week, because they could have brought their pledge the week before. It had nothing to do with the holiday. They happened to bring it during holiday time. And then Ishar Kabonot Tzibur and other communal offerings, and Umakriv Etakol, and they bring this group who's on duty that week. They bring everything. So the question the Gemara wants to know is what is adding on? What are the other communal offerings that the Mishnah is telling us that this group that it's on rotation will bring? So that's what the Gemara is focusing on, explaining the job of the Gemara. One of the jobs is to explain the Mishnah, to clarify what is the Mishnah coming to tell us, what's the meaning of the Mishnah. The Mishnah was very concise, did not always explain itself. And here comes the Gemara. So you have it 56A3, right side. The Gemara says, middle of the page. Mishmash Ezmano Kvua, the group that its time was set to work in the Beit HaMikdash, would bring Ushar Kabonot Tzibur. It would bring other communal offerings. What other offerings? What other communal offerings that they're bringing? That's called that's not part of the holiday. You understand communal. This holiday Kabonot Tzibur. There's the Musaf that's brought as a result of the holiday. Extra Kabonot. So what are the communal offerings that are brought that are not part of the holiday that belongs to this group that's on rotation, that happens to be their rotation?
For example.
So Nathan is on the ball, as they say. That's the Gemara's answer. Let's say the Sanhedrin made a mistake. They gave a certain ruling, and based on their, let's say they said a certain type of fat was kosher, and And there's certain fats that could carry with it the penalty of karet, one assignment, very serious, and they made a mistake, and they're identifying which fat is kosher, which fat is not kosher. And then, and the majority of the community followed their ruling, and they ate the not kosher fat. And by the way, this not kosher fat is even worse than not kosher, not like worse than pig. Because pig, if a person eats pig, does not carry with it the punishment of karet, carries with it the punishment of lashes, which is no one's looking for lashes. But karet is according to the Rambam means is lashon of kritu, being cut off in the next world. That's the language that's used for a get. The Torah says person divorces his wife, should never have to divorce his wife, but if it's called a krisut. It's a language of cutting off, separating between the two. So that's the karet means to cut off. It's to cut off from the next world. That's the punishment from eating chelev. That's the punishment for nida. Person intimate with a nida, the woman who's not that's a nida, whether it's his wife or a single girl, is every single girl is a nida. She's not going to the mikveh. She's not, and so therefore that carries the karet penalty, a very serious penalty. Mishmash is mana kavua. A watch that has a set time, shakam rasibus, and which is not tuyemai. What's it coming to include? What communal offering is not coming as a result of the holiday? But the Gemara says what Nathan says. Now, tuye par helam davish tzibur. It's called a parchatat. It's a bull. It's a sin offering that's to atone for the Jewish people, that atones from the community, majority of the community. Did it b'shogeg. Shogeg means it was unintentionally. They did not know the law. They followed the Sanhedrin, and it's possible that even a Sanhedrin, a great court, could make a mistake. And even though you have a Gemara that says, so it's interesting. The Sanhedrin can make a mistake in a ruling, but the Gemara says that Hashem will protect the tzaddik himself, that he himself won't eat something that's not kosher. It's possible a rabbi of a court could make a mistake in a ruling, but he will not. But Hashem will protect him that he himself will not eat not kosher, because and one idea is because not kosher food become part of the rabbi in his body, mixed with his body, and that's a very derogatory thing. But that type of thing, Hashem will protect the tzaddik. The Gemara says that even Hashem protected the animal of the tzaddik. That the animal of tzaddik, let's say, certain foods that that an animal was only allowed to eat if the if maaser was taken off. So there was I think it was Pinchas ben Yair. His donkey did not want to eat from certain foods that he was not allowed to eat from. What happened? Why isn't he eating? He has a good appetite, this donkey. What happened? He's not eating, Ben. You know why? Because he's not allowed to eat. Because it's this food. What Meiser wasn't taken off. It's forbidden to eat this food. And if Hashem even protected, the Gemara says, if Hashem protects that the donkey of the tzaddik will not eat food that's not allowed to be eaten, how much more so Hashem will protect the tzaddik himself. So the Tosfos asked the question. We found maybe some tzaddik, ate before Havdalah, and he made a mistake and ate before Havdalah. So he says, but eating before Havdalah, the food was kosher. The time was not kosher. It's not that he ate not kosher food. There was a time was not kosher, but not kosher food, then Hashem will protect him. That is the case, and so that has to be processed by the group of Kohanim that were on duty during that week. It happens to be their week, so there's a split. Certain things they don't have more rights than anybody else, but regarding this has nothing to do with the holiday. It's what happened was that the people, the Sanhedrin made a mistake, and the way Rashi puts it in, and let's say it happened during the holiday season, that the court gave a ruling during this time, and now they're bringing an offering to as atonement. So the group that was on duty, they have the privilege to bring it, And then the Gemara gives another thing, another case. Not only that, the Seirei Avodat Kochavim. If let's say, if somehow the court said that this type of service, they allowed a certain service, which was avodah zarah, and the court said that this type of service is not considered avodah zarah, and came out to be that it was avodah zarah. So they bring a different type, a different type of sin offering. This is made from a goat, and the Mishnah teaches us that if these things happen, whether these things happen based on the court's mistake, and the majority of the people followed it, whether it's the har helam davish osiba, whether it's the bull or whether it's the goat, that whatever the type of sin it was, it belongs to the group that's on duty that week. Now the Gemara continues, that group that's on duty that week, it brings everything. Now, what does it mean, everything? We know it doesn't bring everything. It only brings things that have to do with, does not have to do with the holiday. So what is this sentence coming to include? That this group that's on rotation brings everything. It means la tuye kates hamizbeach. Kates hamizbeach. Kates is like the dessert. It's like figs that are brought for dessert. That means that Rashi explains that if, let's say, if Rashi says, yeah, kishu botel, let's say there's nothing going on the mizbeach. So if there's nothing going on the altar, they wanted to keep the altar burning with bringing other carbonot. Let's see the language over here. Yes. There's a law, there's something called Eish Tamid Tukal HaMizbeach. The Torah says there always has to be a fire. Always has to be burning, maybe symbolic of the Jew. If Cook says that every Jew has a fire within, you got to constantly feed that fire, right? You got to constantly feed that fire with Torah, mitzvot, with deeds, productivity. That's Eish Tamid Tukal HaMizbeach. I always have to feed the fire with great things. And you also in Lo Sechber, the Torah says take out the fire from the fire. Never let it, we're in the summer now. People have barbecues. So what do you do after barbecue? Put out the fire. So when you put out the fire, think about the mizbeach. The Torah says you're not allowed to put out the fire on the mizbeach. The Torah says you're never allowed to extinguish the fire. And the idea is similar to a person, that fire that you have at him, you never want to do anything that will lower that fire, right? You always have to keep that fire strong, never diminish that fire. That might be, because the Ner Tamid is, but I think the Ner Tamid might have to do with the language of the menorah. It says like it's a Ner Tamid, the language that it says, that's the language of the Torah. We say good morning to Ralph's grandchild. Welcome to the class. So that is about Aish. Okay, that's Rav Cook's idea. Good morning, Adam. That's Rav Cook's idea of why the Torah says you have to always have a fire burning on the Mizbeach. But now, not only is there an idea of the fire burning on the Mizbeach, but they would actually bring offerings, actual carbonot, when things were quiet on the Mizbeach. When things were quiet, they would bring carbonot, offerings, carbon olah, to keep the Mizbeach, out of respect, that it's always, things are always happening. So that's called the Kates HaMizbeach. So they explain, these were olot, these were the korban olah that were totally consumed, that they would be brought in order that the Mizbeach should not be considered batel, that nothing's happening. Which meaning when they finish bringing the morning offering, right? So in the morning you're busy, you're bringing the morning offering. Well, let's say nobody was there to bring, nobody had any nidarim and nidavot to bring. Nobody came to bring any pledges that they had, personal pledges, personal korbanot. So they would bring these korbanot, and they had money. There was the shofrot. They had these boxes in the Beit HaMikdash that were called shofrot. Like a shofar is narrow in the beginning, and in the end it gets wide. They don't want anybody chas v'shalom to ask after they put money in to take money out. If there'll be unscrupulous people, so they had it. And they had this box. They made it like a shofar, narrow in the beginning and wide as it gets wider, as it goes. The concern was that people, the Rav says, people shouldn't make believe they're putting something in, and really it's really just taking out. But there always could be a person that's, who knows, someone who has a problem and is not God-fearing and might come to steal. You know what happens now in the post office, the way the post box, the boxes that you drop the mail in, they made it in a way that you can't stick your hand in. No one ever, but that's the time that we're living in today, that you have to have, what'd you say? Well, for security. Why? Because it used to be you could open up the thing, get a nice wide opening, you put the mail in, right, Adam? But because we're dealing in times, because that's when people were honest, when people weren't jumping turnstiles but they didn't correct the turnstile problem. They haven't done anything to address that. That people are still jumping over easily. Someone told me that they were in a train station, just to share a little, interesting, terrible situation. They were in a train station, and the person said, what usually used to be, if a person would want to jump a turnstile, they would do it very fast. They want to get finished their sin, their crime. They don't want to wait. They don't want to get caught. Today, the person walked in the train station, and the person was like trying to figure out how I could jump over, taking their time. It was like they never saw anything. Taking their time just to figure out what's the best way. Should I go underneath? Should I go over? This is what's going on in their head all the time in the world. There's no embarrassment today. This is part of the problem. In my humble opinion, it's a sign of break of society. People have no shame, and they could just jump a turnstile. Sometimes by the small things, you could see a lot of what's going on in society. So, but they were careful. When you have hundreds of thousands of people coming to the Beit HaMikdash, you don't want anybody stealing. So that's what they set it up in a way that people shouldn't want to be able to steal. So let's say and that money that was in that shofar, that was collected in that shofar, in those shofrot, that money was used to buy these, and the commentators discuss, where did this money come from? Sometimes if there is certain animals that had a blemish, that when they had certain animals, you need to pasture until they get a blemish, and then you sell the animal, but it was once holy, the animal, but then it got a blemish. So now you might take that money and you redeem the animal onto the money, and now that money they would use for put in the shofar, put in the box, in the pushka box, and they would go ahead and use that to as like a dessert. They're called kates hamizbeach. It's called dessert because these offerings were brought after the main offerings, just like dessert comes after the main course of the meal. This is brought after the main offerings are brought. It's like figs, dried figs that are called cakes, that are eaten as dessert. By the way, dessert goes back thousands of years. Don't think that dessert is a new phenomenon that we have here in the United States of America. We're going back thousands of years. Okay, so that ends that part of the Gemara. Now comes the next Mishnah, Mazel Tov. Comes the Mishnah. Now, the earlier Mishnah spoke about the Lechem HaPanim. It spoke about the Lechem HaPanim that's of the Shabbat during the holiday. If let's say today is a very holy day, it's Rosh Chodesh. It's also the Yortzeit of Aaron HaKohen. It's the day that Aaron passed away. The Torah says this is the 5th month and the 1st day. That's what we just had in last week's parasha. the 5th month and the first day. Nisan, Iyar, Sivan, Tammuz, Av. Today is Rosh Chodesh Av. Aaron passed away, and it was a great day of mourning for the Jewish people. Everybody cried with great loss. And, it says, Mitat Tzadikim Mechaper, the death of righteous people is an atonement, so it should serve as an atonement for us today.
What about someone else?
I'm not sure.
The softness of it.
Oh, the Neshika, that type of, he had a special, his death, what Nathan's referring to, when Moshe saw the way Aaron passed away, because it was very soft, as he said, it was called the death of Neshika, like a kiss. The way, went up on the mountain, Har, and his clothes, and how, Elazar got, they put on clothing on Elazar, Elazar took over for Aaron, and how the death was so soft and so easy, type of whatever, like a kiss. Moshe said he would like that type of death as well. He would like that when he passes away, Hashem should take him in a very similar fashion. So the Mishnah stated that the Lechem HaPonim was very unique, that even though the weekly breads, there were 12 loaves, they were all made out of matzah, the showbreads we call them, and they were on the shulchan, they were on the table. These 12 breads, even though it's a weekly thing, yet it's divided equally by all the 24 groups of Kohanim that will be working during the holiday time. So that's what the Mishnah said regarding the Lechem HaPanim, the dividing of those breads. It's distributed, because after a week, right, you take off the 12 breads. And what do you do with the 12 breads after a week? You have new breads come in. Those old breads now was a week old, right? Aaron, a week old bread doesn't usually taste very good. But here a miracle happened that it stayed fresh, stayed hot, stayed warm. And that was the miracle. So now the Mishnah talks of, and then also we said that it's good. Okay, so let's go see what the Mishnah is going to say now. So the Mishnah says like this: Yom Tov hasamuch l'Shabbat. If Yom Tov comes close to Shabbat, bein milfaneha. So we have a situation. Let's say Yom Tov comes out on a Friday, right? So Yom Tov comes out on a Friday. So, and then that's case number one. Case number two is or bein lacharel, or Yom Tov comes out on a Sunday, right? So the Mishnah says, if Yom Tov comes out on a Friday, good morning, Akiva. If Yom Tov comes out on a Friday, it comes out on a Sunday.
Morning, Rabbi.
Yes, good morning. So look at the Rashi. So what's the situation over here of Yom Tov coming out on a Friday, Yom Tov coming out on a Sunday? So look at Rashi. You have the Rashi, 3 lines into the white lines. If Yom Tov came out after the holiday, the lo havele Shabbat betoch haregel. It's not Shabbat that's during the holiday. Let's say you have Shabbat. So let's say 2 days ago was Shabbat. And let's say Sunday is holiday. Okay? So if Sunday is holiday, the holiday came out after Shabbat. Now if the holiday came out after Shabbat, but when did the group of Kohanim have to enter the Beit HaMikdash? If the holiday was Sunday, they did not arrive on the holiday. They're not traveling on the holiday. They didn't arrive on Shabbat. So if the holiday, if the first day of the holiday begins, let's say on Sunday, they're showing up on Friday. So all the groups of Kohanim are already called to duty. They have to come earlier. They can't walk in on Sunday. They can't walk in on Shabbat. But since they all came earlier, Rashi says, they had to come before Shabbat because of Yom Tov. Shahari b'Shabbat lo yuchal lavo. You know, what happens if you have a Yom Tov, you're going away to the hotel, right? And you're going away to family, or you're going away to friends. Yom Tov comes down on a Saturday night. You can't just, you have to travel, you have to be on Friday. You have to arrive Friday afternoon for Shabbat and Yom Tov. So therefore, so they will go ahead, all 24 groups would get from the Lechem Apanim. Meaning, until now we said that when do all 24 groups have a right to divide in the showbreads? If it happened during the holiday, if let's say Sukkot was on Shabbat, everybody's working. All 24 groups are on duty on Shabbat, on Sukkot, on the holiday. So now, since you're all on duty, we had a special pasuk that taught us that it belongs to all the Kohanim that are on duty. That's Shabbat of the holiday. But now the Shabbat was not holiday. Saturday night, Sunday was the holiday. But then they had to show up. They had to be there for Shabbat. Because they all got to be called to duty Saturday night. Adam, you with me? You all got to be called to duty Saturday night. So you showed up Friday. You all are here Friday. You all have a right to already get the Lechem Apanim. So all the groups have a right to the Lechem Apanim because they needed to be there anyways in the Beit HaMikdash on Friday. Similarly, what happens if the holiday ended on a Shabbat? Or the holiday ended on a Friday. The holiday ended on a Friday. What would be over there? So if or let's say Rashi, let's say the holiday was a Friday. Let's say Rashi Imchal Shmini Lefanea Be'erev Shabbat. So let's say Shmini Atzeret, the 8th day of Sukkot, was on Friday. So all Kohanim are there on Friday because it's the holiday. But now the holiday is over Friday night, but nobody's going home. Why aren't they going home Friday night? They can't travel on Friday night. So now they can't travel Friday night. They have to stay over for Shabbat, all 24. You're all there. You all have a right to the Lechem Apanim. So they all will distribute the Lechem Apanim. So that's the Chidush, that even though it's not holiday, you still have a right to go ahead and get from that weekly Lechem Apanim. By the way, there are people that are challenged today. The people that are trying to keep the Shabbat, and they have a situation where they feel torn on Shabbat. They need to be in two different places. On one part of town, sometimes their parents want them for a Shabbat meal, but they want to be somewhere else for Shabbat also. And there's a problem. The people traveling on Shabbat. On Friday night, they're in one place in Shabbat, another place Saturday morning. And I spoke to one of these people about how they got to figure it out. They can't be traveling on Shabbat. They got to figure out how they could, 1 week you can't go to your parents if you want to be. You can't. You know what? There's an expression: you can't be in two places at the same time. You can't dance at two chasnas at the same time. You can't dance at two chasnas at the same time. Yeah, and you have to be strong about it. Okay, so that's you have to be creative how to figure it out. So that's what the Mishnah tells us. Big chidush. The Yom Tov Hasamach Shabbat. When Yom Tov and Shabbat they follow each other, either Shabbat the holiday came before the Shabbat, or the holiday came right after the Shabbat. It's Hayukol Mishmaro. All of the groups were Shavot, were equal b'chiluk lechem apanim in the dividing of those breads. Now comes the Mishnah says like this: what happens? There was one day between the holiday and Shabbat. Let's say the holiday was on Monday, Sunday night. Sunday night's holiday. So the Shabbat, 2 days before, the Shabbat before, so you would have thought that what does the Shabbat before have to do with, you understand when the holiday is Saturday night, that everybody's showing up on Friday. But when the holiday is Sunday night, So technically, everybody could show up on Sunday. Everybody could travel technically on Sunday for Sunday night at the holiday. So you could do your travel on Sunday. But not everybody's last minute people. And maybe some people are also people that are traveling from a far distance. They don't want to take such chances of the traveling. So as many of those people would go ahead and come Friday. And the holiday is, even today, the holiday is Sunday night. A lot of people don't just travel on Sunday. They already travel the week before. Yes.
Is it like Rosh Chodesh where the Beit Din was encouraging people, even more witnesses, more witnesses, more witnesses? They would expect each and every God that they would try to encourage them to share the food, to encourage people to come early.
It's a good question if they actually encouraged it, because like you said, Rosh Chodesh, we found that they encouraged. Here, I don't know if it says it, but there were many people that came early. So it doesn't say, and they gave, and we're going to see about the Lechem Aponim. Whether the court told them to or not, that's a good question. But here it says there are many people that are, that were not able to, that they came early on Friday, or if the holiday, well, the other thing is the holiday was over on Thursday, but they didn't want to go back on Friday. And also, there's always people that if your distance is too far, you're not gonna reach your destination if you're coming from different parts of Israel. All the Kohanim from anywhere in Israel, it could take a while, and they didn't want to start their travels and stay over somewhere on Friday. So if the holiday was on Thursday, and even if they were able to come back home on Friday, but they didn't want the whole busyness on Friday to travel. So what did they do? So we say Hamishmash Ezmana Kavua, the group that it's their rotation that week. Notel Esachalot. They would take 10 chalot. Meaning, who is that? Meaning that weekly rotation. And when we say here, we said that when the new group comes in on Shabbat, it's 6 and 6. This week, the new group gets 6 chalot, and last week's group gets 6 chalot. Because last week's group were the ones who placed the challah on the table. This week's group is actually the ones that removed the challah, and they also brought the frankincense on the. Because when the first group they placed frankincense on the table, and they put the challah on the table. This week's group, we call it chalot, but they're matzah. They have their matzah lechem upon it. They're bread, but it's unleavened bread. So the 6 from last week's group and 6 from this week's group get. This week's group brought the frankincense that was placed on the table last week. They actually brought it on the altar, and they removed it. So now we're going to say instead of having 6 and 6, it'll be 5 and 5. That will be 10. And the group that stayed that extra day, because they didn't want to travel early, but they didn't want to travel. They didn't want to travel on Friday, even though they could have technically, as long as they knew they would make it to the destination with enough time. Still, or the group, instead of arriving on Sunday when the holiday was Sunday night, Aaron, they arrived on Friday. So we gave them 2 breads. So we obviously gave them some. They gained from coming early or staying over. And the rest of the year, the rest of the Shabbat, the days of the Shabbat of the year, Hanichnas, group that enters, the new group that's on, as we said, there's a changing of the God Shabbat afternoon, the new Kohanim enter, Nichnas, they get 6 chalot, and Yotzei, and the group of Kohanim that are leaving, taking leave, Notel Sheish, they take also 6. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Rabbi Yehuda disagrees. He says it's not a 6 and 6 story. He says it's 7 and 5. Yehuda Omer, Hanichnas Notel Sheva. The new group takes 7, and Hayotzei, the group that goes out, Notel Chamesh, gets 5 chalot to divide. So at the end of the day, if you get 7 this week because you're the new group, and the old group gets 5. So next week you're going to get 5 because you're leaving next week. So the bottom net was the same. After a week, you got 7 or 5, and so the guys who get 6 and 6 or 7 or 5, you at the end of the day you both groups at the end of according to both opinions at the end you report on your taxes 12 chalot. But the question was what the distribution times? Was it distributed 6 and 6, or did you first get 7 when you came into work, 5 when you're leaving the next week? That's the argument, and the Gemara is going to discuss why do it in this fashion. Now, hanichnasim cholkim b'tzafon. The group that enters to work on Shabbat afternoon, they're going to be given the 6 or 7 breads, depending on the opinion. Where are they? Where in the Beit HaMikdash area are they when they give out the bread? The Safon, in the north of the courtyard. That's where the slaughtering of the Kachei Kachim take place. With there's different types of korbanot. Some korbanot are called Kachei Kalim, light holy korbanot. Let's say a Thanksgiving offering, shlamim, and there's certain animals that are called Kachei Kachim, holy. And they have stronger laws about them, meaning an average person will not eat from the Kachei Kachim. Only a Kohen can eat from it. Some things are totally consumed on the altar. So the north part was where the slaughtering of those animals took place, of the Kachei Kachim, and that's where we're going to give the Kohanim that are coming in to serve. They are going to be in the more prominent location, because the north is the prominent location because of the slaughtering of the Kachei Kachim, as you say shchitaso b'safum in the north, and that shows you that you're coming in to serve, right? If you come into the place and you're in the back seats, the best seats in the house. The north is the best seats in the house. It means you're here to serve, and hayotzim. But the ones who are leaving service you're going to be in a place that's not as prominent, which would be in the south part of the courtyard. Hayotzim. Yes, it's hidden. Yes, it's the same word. And I presume it has to do with the north somehow. In the north, it's the more hidden. What did you say? Okay. But it must have they're connected, I would think. We have to know anything. If you know more about the sun, we have to know.
Would be more shady.
It's more hidden. That's why the word safon most probably. I mean, the word mizrach, the sun, east is called mizrach. Why is the east mizrach? What word do you have in mizrach? Zareah. It shines. The west is called marav. Erev, the evening. The west, because the sun goes down in the west. Therefore, it's called the evening. It's called marav.
But most of the world, the north is shadier.
I'm saying, I wonder that's why it's called safun. Maybe it's more shady, it's more hidden. Okay, we have to see what about the south. Okay, so if it was, so when the group that's leaving, they go in, they distribute in the south. We'll continue tomorrow. It's already time. I don't want people to be late for it. Chodesh Tov, we should have a beautiful davening, everybody. It should be today is Rosh Chodesh, and one day Rosh Chodesh. We welcome everybody. It's a beautiful group. Welcome. Have a great day. Akiva, have a great day.
Great class.
Thank you. Great people.